and welcome to the One Test Prep. We are so excited today to bring you the partnership, the collaboration, the connection to bring an expert who is so talented and so gifted into this conversation. This conversation is all about helping social workers who are preparing for their license exam get tools to help them understand the content better. And so we're gifted today to have Dr. Jen Hartstein with us today. Dr. Jen, please introduce yourself. I can't do any better, please.
Well, thank you, Jason, for that introduction. I appreciate it. I am Dr. Jen Hartstein. I am a clinical psychologist based in New York City and owner of Hartstein Psychological Services. I am really excited to be here and part of this conversation and help people pass the exam so we have more clinicians in the field helping the people that need it.
Dr. Jen, your expertise is something that I think is incredibly meaningful and important. And in our field, we understand that we all have to learn when we do clinical supervision. We all understand that we have to do clinical supervision. Sure, as a social worker, I have to get hours with a social worker, but I also have to go vary out, and get hours with a psychologist, hours with a professional counselor, hours with a marriage and family therapist. And this way, all of the different disciplines are coming together and seeing how we approach and really cultivate really powerful clinical skills and really enable the clinicians to be their best selves.
And I think, Jason, to your point, right? Like, I think there's an important thing to think about is that we are clinically much more similar than we are different, despite having different kind of areas of expertise that if we kind of created a Venn diagram in the middle, we all are doing therapy and wanting to provide the best treatment offerings to the people with whom we work. So I think that it's important to have some connection with all the different areas within the field because there is more similarity than there is differences. So I think it's great to be able to share kind of what I know with the social work population in a way that might be a little different, but probably not as much as we would think.
And even in your practice, you have social workers that work for you. So
Correct.
in that regard, it's not as if you're separated or disconnected, you're integrated. And the same thing, I own a group practice and I have a psychiatrist on deck. I have marriage and family therapists that work for me. And we definitely do psychology consultations that are always connected. So we really feel like it's important to bring all of our disciplines together. And I like your Venn diagram aspect. There's a definite overlap in all of the work that we do. You talking about cognitive behavioral therapy, you talking about parenting skills, you talking about things that are right in alignment and directly overlap.
We want to get to the underpinnings of things and why things are happening. But I really believe that without any skills as the foundation, going into those underpinnings just leaves people feeling raw and overwhelmed and with no way to kind of navigate all of the emotional reactivity or dysregulation they might have, right? So kind of fundamentally, what is CBT? Well, it is a psychotherapeutic approach like many other ones that looks at kind of how we can change our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors to be more engaged in our world kind of on a more like on an easier level in a way that we can manage our lives more effectively. And we know that kind of they're all interconnected, and changing one space in that, changing your thoughts will change how you act and how you feel. Changing your behaviors will change how you feel and how you act. The hardest thing in the cognitive triad to change is how we feel. Because man, if we could do that and just snap our fingers, wouldn't we all do that? And then we wouldn't really need an exam or therapy or any of those things. We really look at how can we change your cognitions, the C, how can we change your behaviors, the B, and how can we change kind of the emotional reactions? And what can we do within that, in that space to do that?
The application of it, it's about applying the skill. Because even if you learn a skill, if you don't know how to use it or when to use it, then it's as useful as having a hammer. You're looking at a nail and you're like, boy, I wonder if I can screw this thing in, or maybe I should I put some air? Let me put an air pump and put some air into this nail.
Exactly. So
Hmm.
I think of CBT too as you have some of these skills, but you're not using it you're not using the torque in the hammering the
Hmm.
way you need to, right?
Yeah.
So many of us kind of engage in things that, for example, I'm feeling really overwhelmed, so I do kind of a distress tolerance skill,
Hmm.
but it becomes avoiding the thing that makes me anxious instead of
Hmm.
kind of momentarily calming myself so that I can still approach the thing that makes me anxious and
Hmm.
change the outcome, change my reaction to it, whatever. But what we end up doing is we reinforce the avoidance because we
Hmm.
feel better. So we reinforce the avoidance instead of being like, oh, wait, kind of taking a couple minutes and listening to some of my favorite music so I calm down is really helpful. But now I feel better, so I'm not going to go back. Versus, oh, I'm going to calm down and oh, I still have to go do that presentation in my class.
Hmm.
So now that I'm calmer, I can think about how I can approach the anxiety and be like, okay, I've got this. I've done this before. I can figure out how to talk to myself differently. And then I can kind of step back in. And so sometimes we have the skill, but it needs that like slight tweak to make
Hmm.
it more effective and better.
So, Dr. Jen, let's get into some of the fundamental basics because you've kind of touched on it. You talked about the
Sure.
triad of the CBT, and but let's for the social worker who is watching this video and is maybe not as really educated or sharp as exposed to what
Sure.
CBT actually is. Give us the nuts, the bolts, the hammer, the nails, right?
So fundamentally, right, think of CBT, we'll just kind of review this for a second, as a triangle. And
Hmm.
our arrows kind of with going back and forth between each side. So you
Hmm.
have kind of cognitions, behaviors, responses, or emotions. And so those things go back and forth. We know that a change in one part changes the other things. So
Hmm.
how do we do that, right? So there's a couple things we want to think about that are the baseline fundamental foundation. Some of that we've talked about is skill development. What are we doing to teach coping strategies, coping skills to navigate the challenging moments that people exist? So that's one major piece of it. Another piece of it is helping people feel as though they can do it, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
often when we are emotionally overwhelmed, we just shut down, we isolate, we avoid, we distract, we don't stay engaged. So we need kind of the behavioral activation. And if I know, oh, when I'm anxious, my automatic reaction is to avoid and isolate. And I know I actually need to approach the thing that makes me anxious. That's the
Hmm.
behavioral activation part of it
Hmm.
that we need to really engage in. Simultaneously, we need to do what we call cognitive restructuring. We need to stop and think about how we're thinking, right? We actually
Hmm.
need to think
Hmm.
about our thinking and we need to stop and say, okay, I'm never going to succeed. I'm never going to do that. Well, that's a cognitive distortion because you've probably already succeeded. Social workers are about to take a test. Many of us, myself included, when I had to take my licensing exam, was like, I'm a horrible standardized test taker. I can't do it. I'm
Hmm.
never going to pass. All of that just psychs you out instead of being like, hey, I haven't taken the test yet. I don't know how I'm gonna do. So just shifting how we think about it changes how we approach it. So we want to think about kind of what's the skills we can develop, what's the behavioral activation plan we can create, how can we restructure how we're thinking, and then kind of one of the most important things in CBT is how do we expose ourselves consistently to those things that maybe create our emotional dysregulation so that we recognize that they aren't so scary. We can handle it and we can actually succeed in ways maybe we didn't realize.
I love how you integrated, first of all, the exam experience because that's the people watching are definitely preparing for that. Additionally, I like that you weaved in a little bit of exposure therapy, which
Mm-hmm.
for anxiety is critical because the more we are exposed to something that we have a psychological fear of, then the more we can kind of start to regulate our dysregulated reaction.
Right? There are things that are going to happen that you cannot change.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean it's a failure, you're a failure. So if I can say, okay, this is what it is in the purest sense of the word,
Hmm.
what do I want to do about it? All these doors open that I can lean into versus it's not fair, why me, where I'm just going to be stuck in my suffering, right? And so we
Mhm.
all have to accept a lot of things in our lives that we do not like. It
Mhm.
doesn't minimize our feelings, but we have to then figure out what we want our response to be, not just what our reaction is.
One of the reasons I tell people all the time, one of the reasons that a business like mine exists is because of the difference between CSWE and ASWB. CSW is Council for Social Work Education. They're the people that determine what a school of social work that is accredited,
Mm-hmm.
what they must teach, what the curriculum is. And ASWB, the organization that creates the exam, they decide what is on the test to become licensed. And there's a disparity. There's a gap between what is taught and what is tested. And so frequently, and this happened to me when I went to go take my exam the first time, I saw topics on there, information on there that I was like, I attended grad school. I got all A's and B's. Um, they
But I've
didn't.
never heard of this
I've ne-
before.
why this is a foreign word. You just you just said something to me I've never heard before. Why is this? Why am I seeing this on a test that I didn't get prepared for? So for those social workers who have maybe their university didn't cover CBT. I don't know. I can't. That's not. I can't cover that. I can't be responsible for that.
That's not your area to figure out.
That's not on my yeah, I can't quite manage that. So for the social worker who's never seen CBT, talk to us about the ABC, right? ABC triangle, the activating event.
Sure. So the ABC triangle, right? We have in the ABC, the A stands for antecedents, big
Mm-hmm,
fancy word. What does that mean? What happened? It's really an antecedent is like what's the thing that triggered a reaction, right? So
mm-hmm,
what's the
mm-hmm,
action, the thing? The B is the behavior, the C is the consequence. So there's kind of two triangles in
mm-hmm,
cognitive behavior therapy. And so when we are working with clients in a cognitive behavior therapy framework, the ABC triangle of the antecedent, the behavior, the consequence is an awesome kind of roadmap for us where we can be like, okay, what's the trigger? Also known as the antecedent. What's the thing that set you off? What's the
mm-hmm,
you're worried about taking the exam, the A. What's the behavior? I avoided studying. I kept putting it off. I jumped in and took the exam and
mm-hmm,
aced it. Go me, whatever. And then
mm-hmm,
what are the consequences, right? And sometimes consequences they get a bad rap. Sometimes consequences are good. I had to take the exam. I studied really hard by taking this course and I passed. Like
mm-hmm,
cool, right? And what's the outcome of that? So that's the ABC kind of roadmap, and it really helps us understand where things are going, and that's really important because it gives us something super concrete to have a piece of paper and be like, let's draw this out with our clients.
mm-hmm,
So why do we want that? Well, we know in this kind of day and age that access to treatment can be really challenging, both from a monetary standpoint and from a availability standpoint. So
mm-hmm,
one of the great things about CBT is it's an empirically supported treatment.
mm-hmm,
What does that mean? Well, that means insurance likes it because we can prove, because there's a lot of research that says this is an effective model. This is something that we can show you works. And it's usually kind of, and it can work across a bunch of different mental health issues.
mm-hmm,
So people want to engage in that. And it is very client centered. So you're handing them this,
mm-hmm,
we've been talking about tools, this beautiful toolbox
mm-hmm,
to use for whatever thing gets put in front of them. And that's equally important, right? So we know that we're focusing on the client to give them the skills. We are giving treatment that we know works. We have, if we're following the model, we know there's evidence behind it that
mm-hmm.
really, is effective. And because we're giving people all of these skills, they're walking out feeling like they can handle the things that they couldn't handle before.
One of the baseline fundamental pieces of CBT is to recognize errors in your thinking, right? What are some of for example, I can think of one off the top of my head is the making a mountain out of a molehill, kind of
Sure.
overestimating or overvaluing something, giving it more meaning than what it is. But what are some of the
Or some other words.
CBT, yeah, that come to
So
mind for you?
So we call those cognitive distortions,
Hmm.
right?
Thank
An
you.
easier way to think about them, you're welcome. An easier way to think about them is thinking mistakes, right? Which,
Hmm.
by the way, every, I'm going to make a very good generalization, but everybody does them.
Hmm.
So overgeneralization, because this didn't go right for me one time, it's never going to go right for me again. That's a big one. Black and white thinking is
Hmm.
actually a cognitive distortion because nothing is all or nothing,
There
right?
you
Like
go. All
I
or
can
nothing
say that,
thinking. Yeah, there you
all or
go. I
nothing
remember
thinking,
that
right?
coming back to
So
me.
there you go. Overgeneralization, like personalization, oh, she didn't text me back, so therefore she hates me and she's never going to be my friend again.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is there
No,
any
right? So
evidence to say that it's never gonna happen?
correct. But to me, it's like if we can teach people to slow down, check their thoughts, navigate their behaviors, then we give them the volume control on their emotions. And then people feel
Mhm.
more in control of their lives. So like all of that is really why it's such a special kind of way to approach therapy because it's really giving people the tools to manage for a lifetime. And I think that's really what's important.
Dr. Jen, is there anything else that you want to share about CBT today?
I think we hit it.
I think we hit it. I feel like that's a great set of tools that you provided. Your insight is absolutely illuminating.